Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Club Leadership Education for Secretaries. This is Sue Peterson from the East Lansing Club in the Michigan District, and I'm happy to have you with us tonight. We are recording tonight's program so that you will have access to it after today. And what I will let you know is that once the recording has come down from the cloud, so to say, I will send you an email with the information so that you have it and that you can look at it in the future for reference. We will also make available the PowerPoint for you and the links to some of the documents that we talk about tonight. You are welcome to, I do ask that you turn off your microphones tonight. You are welcome to turn off your camera if you would like to do so. I will be, so that I can help with the Wi-Fi, the bandwidth here. Sometimes it's not always the strongest when I have my camera on, but we will do that to keep you going, but you're welcome to do that. If you should have any questions along the way, if you want to throw them in chat, feel free to do so. This is a very high level program for the secretaries, and I'm hoping that Stacy Neal from our office will join us today if she's not on tonight. We will work with her, but we'd like to have her, and I've talked with her about doing a specific program on how to use the dashboard and how to work specifically within the Kiwanis.org program so that you know how to use that. We won't get to that tonight. It would take us hours to do that as well. So very high level tonight, but we do have resources in Stacy, Nil, who can help us. And then there are several people on this call tonight that are long-term secretaries that I'm sure if we needed some help, those individuals would reach out for us tonight. So I'm going to share with you the PowerPoint. We do have a PowerPoint that Kiwanis International put together. And this is the PowerPoint that we'll share with you. And of course, I will also share with you the recording once we get that going. There is a video in it tonight from our incoming Kiwanis International president, and we will show that as well. So one thing I have learned that if I were to admit anybody during the program, or especially during the video, it'll stop and start the video. So I won't do that tonight until at the end of the video, but I'm learning just as you are along the way. So thank you for being with us tonight. Again, as a reminder, make sure you put your name and your club name in the chat tonight. I will be entering that information for the record keeping to show that your club participated. If there's anyone else in your club or in your division who would like to attend this program or take this education, they will be able to do that once the recordings are finished and we make them available to anyone who participates. I'm working on trying to figure out how to make sure that we get you credit for that attendance, because it would be on your own, asynchronous, where you would be doing that yourself. So thanks for being with us. We're going to talk a little bit. Kiwanis International, this program has developed into a Kiwanis 101 component, which I find is very helpful. And it's something that you may use as a club member for education of your new members. It's a great program that really gives a broad overview of what Kiwanis is in a nutshell. And it's available for you if you would like to use that as well. And we'll make sure you have all that. And then, of course, our focus tonight will be on the club secretary position. Last night, we did the club president. Tomorrow night, we will do the club treasurer. And next week, a week from tonight, we will do membership chairs. So feel free to share this information with them or anyone in your club. There is no restriction on who can or cannot attend. It's open to anyone. And we encourage everyone that is interested to participate in this program and to learn all they can about Kiwanis. So I'll turn my video off at that point. What are we going to do tonight? The first thing we're going to do with our learning outcomes is define your role, articulate the responsibilities of your role, explore how you can contribute to maintaining members, recognize the importance of membership growth, and locating and using available resources. You will find that there are a lot of resources for Kiwanis officers, for Kiwanis members in general, and a lot of times they can be overwhelming, but tonight we're going to show you some of those, and then I will give you the links. I did put some of the links in the chat tonight. I will put some more of them in, or copy them for you for later, but there are a lot of resources out there to help you with membership, with the responsibilities of your role. And of course, you can always default to your leadership guide. The one thing I want to share at the beginning right up front is if you have any questions or need help with something during this year, you're welcome to reach out to Stacy in our district office or Greg in the district office or myself, and my contact information will be available for you at the end of the program. Two things that we're going to use tonight will be the leadership guide. This is the leadership guide. Many of you may have seen this guide with this good-looking young man. It is the same leadership guide that has been provided the last couple of years for Kiwanis International. It's a very basic guide. They've taken out some of the specifics as in the calendar or those types of the annual checklist, which they have provided separately, which we will make sure you have that link. But this is a leadership guide that covers all the offices of Kiwanis for your club, the district and the international, and it has a very big resource section in the back of it. So it is available. A lot of clubs have it. It's also available at kiwanis.org/leadership guide. You can download it. You can download parts and pieces of it if you're looking for something specific, but it is available for you, and any member is welcome to be given that document. I will tell you that in my club, I actually use this as a way for our new members to learn about our organization because there is so much information in it. We had a lady today that stopped in and is looking at joining our club, and she was looking for information. And I said, I'm gonna give you this. It may feel overwhelming at first, but I want you to understand this is what the component of our club is. We had some extra copies of it. And she's like, oh, I can read this at my own pace. And I said, exactly. So she was very interested in that. And then, we'll connect with her over the next couple of weeks to see if she wishes to join our club. The other set of tools that are out there are the Achieving Club Excellent tools, or you'll often hear them called as the ACE tools. Again, Kiwanis.org/ACE tools. Those are the tools that are used within our membership component of the organization, as well as providing some opportunities for survey work and ways to evaluate your community, ways to evaluate your club, and things that you can look at along the way with your club itself. For housekeeping, I just want to remind you again to put in the chat box your name and your Kiwanis Club name. We will make this video recording available to you within 48 hours. I will send you the email with the link, and then I'm also working with the district office to make sure that these links are provided and put on the district website. But I will make sure that you get a copy or you get a link specifically for these programs so that you have it yourself. And again, we will submit your attendance to the dashboard to show you attended the training so that you have that record for future use. If you have any questions during the presentation, we just ask that you put them in the chat box. If we were in a room and we were doing this in person, we'd ask you to put it in the parking lot. But we want to make sure that we keep on track tonight. I want to make sure that I'm respectful of your time this evening because I know how valuable everyone's time is. If we can, we'll do as much as we can to get to those questions. If we don't, we will get back with you. So don't worry that we will not skip something along the way, but I want to make sure that we cover the information we have here, and then we'll move forward from there. So the first thing we're going to do is listen to our incoming president, Lee Kwan Young, and I will start his video.
Hello, club leaders. Congratulations on your new leadership position. This is a pivotal time for Kiwanis International, and our clubs are the heart and soul of our organization. We need enthusiastic and engaged leaders to motivate our existing members and bring new faces and ideas into our organization. As you take on new responsibilities and develop your own goals for your club, we will support you with the latest resources to help you be successful in your role. Take advantage of not only the training, but the leaders in your club, division, and district to help support you in this role. They are available to answer questions and encourage you to cultivate your ideas and put them into action. Lead by example to set the tone and expectations for the members of your club. They are your assets and ambassadors. You want to prepare them for success to result in membership growth, more opportunity for kids, and a more significant Kiwanis impact in your community. I look forward to serving with you as we continue to work through the challenges and opportunities that shape the future of Kiwanis. Thank you for your dedication and continued service to our great organization.
Thank you to Kwan Young for being with us tonight. He's with us all over the world. Kwan Young is from Malaysia. I actually had the opportunity to serve with him back in 2001, 2002 when I was a governor. He actually is one of the founding, he doesn't like to be called fathers, but one of the founding members of Kiwanis in Malaysia in 2001, 2001, 2002. So he has served on the international board for several years, and then he took off a couple years for his work to be able to continue his work with his company before he retired, and then put his name up to be elected as a Kiwanis International Vice President. So he's excited about his upcoming year, and I think you'll find a sense of enthusiasm with him that he showed right there on the video. So let's talk about Kiwanis 101. What is Kiwanis? This is a great reminder and brings us back to who we are. Our motto is serving the children of the world. The defining statement is that we're a global organization of volunteers dedicated to improving the world one child and one community at a time. Oftentimes people use that defining statement as their elevator speech. So when someone says to you, well, what is Kiwanis? This is a great way to do that. And I always like to add on the end and say, my Kiwanis Club does this, so that it gives people an idea of what not only we are a global organization, but what we're doing in my local community. And then our vision statement is that we'll be a positive influence in communities worldwide, so that one day all children will wake up in communities that believe in them, nurture them, and provide them the support they need to thrive. So 3 components that some people put in their club newsletter, some people read them at their weekly meetings or their bi-weekly meetings, but takes us back to who we are and what we do, and great sources of information for our prospective members. The club leadership structure, at this point, I hope that you have a general understanding of that, but the club leadership structure, the Kiwanis Club is actually the member of Kiwanis International, and a club may have a president-elect, a secretary, a treasurer, has a board of directors. Some clubs have vice presidents, some clubs have assistant secretaries, or the secretary treasurer is one person, but that really is up to your club for what works for you and how you decide to break up that leadership for the club itself. Some clubs the officers may serve 2 years versus a 1-year position, and that depends on the club. I know a lot of times you get to the end of your first year and you're like, heck, I just learned out what I've got to do, and now it's time for someone else to take over. So we're seeing a lot of clubs that have 2-year officer positions as a way for not only training, but as a way for some stability for the club. Of course, each of our divisions has a lieutenant governor, and a division is typically a region of clubs. So a lieutenant governor may have 7 or 8 clubs in their division. There are several lieutenant governors on here with us tonight, several past lieutenant governors on here tonight. But basically, another cheerleader at the division level to provide you support, and also as a way for them to provide you resources if you run into a problem, or you're like, hey, I don't know where to reach out to. A lieutenant governor, because of the experience they have, often can put you in the right direction or help you get there. Again, our district, the Michigan district, is composed of the lower peninsula of Michigan and a few counties above the Mackinac Bridge. The rest of Michigan is a part of the Wisconsin Upper Michigan district that was designated many, many years ago. I still have never found out why they only put a few of the clubs in Michigan. And I think it's probably for the travel distance, even though we all have a significant travel district to get to those clubs. The district has a governor-elect, a secretary, a treasurer. Sometimes that's the same person. In our district, we have an executive director. And then there are district chairs that help the leadership team of the governor-elect, the secretary, treasurer. There's an immediate past governor to help them fulfill their goals and the mission for the year. And then finally, the Kiwanis International Board, which is composed of the president-elect, a vice president, the immediate past president, and trustees who are elected we'll be electing them at the International Convention in Denver this coming year. But those are members who have volunteered to step up to the next level and help lead our organization at that level, meaning working with all the clubs around the globe, but providing support to the district, the division, and the club. We all know that we're part of Michigan District, which is the birthplace of Kiwanis, where it all started. I mentioned where the district is, what our status or what we're composed of, and there are 17 divisions in the Michigan district. And I hope that your lieutenant governor has, you know who your lieutenant governor is, but secondly, you know what division your club is in. And there is a directory both that is mailed to the secretary and the president every year with a list of those divisions and what clubs are in what division, as well as that information is on our district website, mikiwanis.org, mikiwanis.org. So basically, this is the breakdown. Kiwanis is international, as we've mentioned. It's global. There is a European European Kiwanis. There is an Asian Kiwanis group, and then of course North America and Canada are the other areas of Kiwanis. So started here in Michigan in Detroit. The Detroit #1 club still exists today, which is a great tribute to them for being 110 years old. And they'll tell you that none of their members have been around that long, but their club is still here and still active. Who's who? Our district governor currently is Renee Callery. Our district governor-elect is Frank Palazzolo. Our executive director or the district secretary treasurer is Greg Smith. Our administrative secretary is Stacy Nill. And then your lieutenant governor for your division. Again, I hope that you know who that is and that we're in the process of, we will have new lieutenant governor starting October 1 again. So this is the core of the leadership team of the Michigan district. They're here to set the plan and the goals for the year along with Kiwanis International. The Kiwanis objects. This year in Denver, we will be celebrating the 100th anniversary of the adoption of the Kiwanis objects, which to me, to have objects that have been around and for the men of the organization back in 1924 to put these into words, pretty much is this, who we are as an organization along the way. And one thing we did at our Kiwanis Ones this year was we actually had one of our breakouts during the officers components was really to talk about what the objects were and how are they still relevant to what we do today. And today, for example, in my club, we inducted a new member and we actually read these objects to everyone so that at least, once every time we induct a new member, we are sharing what these objects are and what they mean. And I think that when we sit down sometimes and go back and look at them, it truly is who we are as an organization and who we are as individuals, that we're providing, means to form friendships and we're giving altruistic service and we're building better communities. So it all goes back to, I like to say that to encourage the daily living in the golden rule in all human relationships. So we like to keep these in front of our members. If your club isn't providing them to the clubs, I would bet there are members in the club that may not remember them, or even newer members who really don't know that they exist, and it is the foundation of our club. So I encourage you to share that with them, whether in a newsletter or on your table as a table tent, or just having them read during a meeting. Some clubs read them together as a group. Other clubs provide them as a table tent, or they just make them available to members. Kiwanis International has a strategic plan, and many of our clubs and the districts actually work off this plan, of course, specific to our own clubs. But we have 5 pillars, 5 legs of the stool, so to say. The first one being membership and engagement, building, retaining, and supporting Kiwanis membership networks. Leadership and education, which is, this program is part of that component, because our goal is that we're providing leadership and education to help individuals grow, whether they are 18 and fresh out of college or they're 75 and they're joining the Kiwanis Club for the first time. But we want to make sure that everyone understands that there are opportunities to lead in some form or fashion, but it's not expected. We don't, you don't have to serve in a leadership role, but there is opportunity out there, and the education that we provide through Kiwanis can be very helpful in the business world and their personal life, with our Key Club and our Circle K members and action clubs all the way down the road. Of course, community impact is why we exist. Providing meaningful service with service to the children is our #1 priority. That's why we exist. Kids need Kiwanis, and the work that we do provides them and the children of our communities the best possible opportunities. Of course, financial viability. We do have a responsibility as an organization to ensure financial viability and responsible stewardship. that we are using the funds that members are providing to us or that we are raising through our community, that we're using them in the right way. And that as an organization, we have the responsibility to maintain our budgets and that type of data so that we can continue on the work that we're doing. To say that we're 110 years old, how great would it be to have our 200th anniversary in 90 years? And I'm sure that not many of us will be there then, but you never know. And then branding and image, enhancing the Kiwanis image and brand worldwide. You probably have seen or have heard of a lot of emphasis on the last 12 years, partly because Kiwanis does have an image. We are known for the logo that we have with the K and the circle and Kiwanis International around that. And one thing that people say, well, I'd like to do something, I want to make it look the way for my club. We actually have there used to be a club in Florida that would put the K, it would be built around a flamingo. And we're like, well, but not every club has flamingos. So, we want to keep the standard for what the image is so that everyone knows if they go into a community and they see that logo that there's a Kiwanis club there. And that stands for our brand. That's who we are. And I like to say that, McDonald's doesn't allow their franchisees to play with the McDonald's sign, or Nike doesn't allow their franchisees to, play with their stuff. Why should Kiwanis? We need to protect our own brand and our own image so that someone isn't making money off of us in the wrong fashion. So 5 components of the plan. There is a lot of information on the Kiwanis website about the Kiwanis strategic plan. And of course, there are members within our district who are available, I guess is the right word to say, who are available to help you in your club if you would like to do something. We have a lot of members that have worked on the district plan, but we're also willing to help you work on your club plan. Not every club, you may say my club's smaller, this is something too big for us to take on. Nothing says you have to take on the whole thing at once, but there are components of that you may want to start small. But it's always helpful to have a plan that your club can follow over the next couple of years to keep you moving in the right direction and to advance what Kiwanis is doing in your community. So things to think about is how can your club focus on the priorities that you have laid out in the strategic plan. Yesterday's club president session, and I encourage you to watch that when it's made available, talks a lot about engagement and experience and how there are things that your club can do, your board can do to put some ideas into place to keep your club moving forward. Reality is it should not be a one-person strategic plan. It should be done by your board so that you have a focus of where you're heading next year and the year after. It's always, there's always the opportunity to add something new in, but in a cycle, what is the club doing along the way? It used to be that strategic plans were written for 5 to 10 years. That is kind of off the road now. We typically write them for 3 years, 2 to 3 years, just because of the way things have changed so quickly. And we talk about since the pandemic about how things just have moved forward in such different ways that we would have never thought we'd be providing this education to you on Zoom, as a matter of fact. So in the book, in the leadership guide, the roles and responsibilities start on this section with the club secretary. And we're just going to go over some of the responsibilities that are there. It begins on page 31, if you want to mark that down in any notes that you're doing. The most updated version is available online at the kiwanis.org/leadership guide. And you are welcome to print that off, or heck, even if you want to just print off your section for the club secretaries, you're welcome to do that. It's set up that way that you can follow through with it that way. But truly the role of the club secretary, as we know, is to ensure that the club operations run efficiently and help to manage the many details of the club experience that make it great. You will work closely with the president and the board of directors and are responsible for the management of your club records, including minutes and attendance at club and board meetings. In some clubs, the secretary may work with the dues, they may work with collecting dues, they may work with sending out statements, but that's all for your club to make those decisions. Some of that may just follow all to the treasurer's role. But as a officer of the club, as the club secretary, this club secretary truly, we like to say, is the unsung hero, because they're the person that knows about the club and what needs to be done, and know that there are other people out there that can help them along the way, because you're responsible for maintaining the reports and all the correspondence and sharing that information, not only with your board and your club, but with your service leadership programs, your Key Club, your Circle K Club, any of your action clubs or K Kids that you may have, as well as communication with your community, if any other networks that you have within your city. So main responsibilities are to update the online club and membership records, maintain your club's permanent files. These are just some of the responsibilities you may be doing. Keep minutes for the club and board meetings. As I mentioned earlier, some clubs have an assistant secretary, because that, they may be like, okay, there is a lot of work here to do for the secretary. How can we help that person? Some clubs have an assistant secretary that takes minutes, or they follow up, they manage the communication. But that's really up for your club, to make those decisions. If you would like to do things like that, it's always, I always recommend that your club does have an assistant secretary, so that there is someone else that can get into the Kiwanis dashboard should you be gone for a couple weeks and someone needs to get it, or have access to that, so that it's not all on one person as an individual. Communications, you will be the main communication contact, for all club mail correspondence that comes from Kiwanis International. Most information that is sent from Kiwanis International is sent to the secretaries, because that's typically the standard address and the permanent address of the club that you may have, whether it's a PO box or a business address or a personal address. So you'll be the one that communicates and submits reports, and that stuff is done through the dashboard. And as I said, we'll work with Stacy to get some programs, set up on that, so that you have some more information on that, so that you don't feel completely overwhelmed, because it can be at times. But I was a secretary for several years, and I found that I just needed to spread the wealth of the work over, a couple of days, and not wait until the last minute to do all the reports and to turn everything in. But typically, these are the main responsibilities of the secretary. And of course, we're leading by example. One thing that you can do as your role as a member of the board is, if help is needed and you can assist with that, is to show up. And we like to say walk the walk, listen. The biggest thing as a secretary you probably will find out is that you are the listener for the club, providing that information, because you will have the majority of the information for your club. And someone may just need a little bit of help, or they need to get into the program, but that will be something that you can do, as the club secretary. And of course, if you're encouraged to participate in projects as your schedule permits, and if there's a new member, you may be the person that sits down and helps talk to the new member, to talk about specific parts of your club. But of course, that's all up for your club, because you need to decide what works for you. There's no one size fits all, and we know that. But as a leader and leading by example, we know that people are inspired by leaders who act. So if your involvement is based on what your abilities are and what you can do and your time commitment, because we know that we all have life outside of Kiwanis. But what's important for you is that you showcase the best leadership that you can do along the way. Key resources, as we mentioned earlier, there is the leadership guide, which we've given you. There is a club secretary website, and we're going to go over that in a little bit. There's an annual checklist for the club secretary, and of course, youth protection guidelines, which are a critical component of all of our clubs. And as I mentioned earlier, Jackie Wickham, who is on the call with us tonight, is the youth protection coordinator for the Michigan district. And I will give the shout out now to Jackie, but if you need assistance with something, she will be happy to help you. Whether she can do a Zoom call with you, or whether you just need assistance with it, or if her schedule permits, she may even drive over and see you and talk about it, because of the significance and the importance of us having youth protection guidelines for all of our club members to provide. So the leadership guide, as I mentioned earlier, has the Kiwanis 101 information. There is a club secretary section, the club president, the treasurer, the membership chair section, and the resources section. That is available for anyone at the Kiwanis.org site there, and really gives you a lot of information, even some more in-depth information than we did just on Kiwanis 101 today. but more information about the history, more general information about resources that are available, where you can get information. The resources section is very well written on a wide variety of things, including award and recognition programs, including insurance and branding. There's information in there about how to install a member, how to install your club officers. So it's a great guide. I always carry my guide with me because I never know when I have to myself go in and look for something or someone else is looking for it. I can hand it off. And oftentimes I wind up losing my leadership guide because I give it to someone else who is looking for some help and information. The club secretary website. This is the new, or I should say, an updated website that you can get to as a club secretary that has kind of broke down the roles of the club secretary, the leadership guide link, the monthly checklist of things that our a secretary is responsible for. And sometimes it's more of a reference point of like, okay, we're going to elect our club delegates for the Kiwanis International Convention. When is that information due and when do I need to turn it in? Distinguished criteria for the 2024 year, 2024, 2025 actually will be the same for 25, 26. The distinguished criteria program from Kiwanis International will be the same for the next 2 years. That is on there. Club bylaws. Clubs are asked to look at their bylaws on a yearly basis just to see if anything's changed, to make sure they're kept up to date. Again, the ACE tools for the Achieving Club Excellence, information on background checks. Everything you need is there, and if it's not there, you can always, I recommend that you just Google what you're looking for and say Kiwanis monthly checklist or Kiwanis ACE tools. We know that I will tell you Kiwanis International knows because we talk about it, about the sometimes clunkiness of the Kiwanis.org site, and sometimes it's just quicker to just go to google.com and do your research that way and to pull your information up. The club secretary annual checklist, of course, this one's a little difficult to read because of the blue and the gold, but it does give you a checklist that will start here, started June 1st, that brings up the idea, the dates that are important over the next year. So the board meetings that are happening, when the conventions are, mostly July is conventions, and when the offices are closed. But it also has a checklist of things for that you can sometimes just remind your president, like, hey, we need to make sure that we attend the Kiwanis District Convention. Have we, when's the registration information out there? How do we do that? When is your reports due? When is your 990 form due and 990 EZ, which are required here in the United States? Scheduling organizational board meetings. So it kind of gives you a checklist of things just as a reminder for you, to help you and your club move ahead, and things to think about. Sometimes it's just, you just need that guide. And this is a checklist that we used to be in our leadership guide and they pulled it out to make it easier and then for changes and stuff like that. But it's a great way to check off what's going on in your club and what resources are out there. So before we head on, I'm going to go into the chat room. I see some chats here. I just want to make sure that I'm not missing any specific questions. I see everybody's there. Here's a good one. Is Kiwanis International creating bylaw changes that we will need to adopt this year? We will not know until we go to Denver. If they are Kiwanis International bylaw changes, basically our district will adopt them at our district convention. But as to the best of my knowledge, I am not aware of any. Most of the folks, there would be the Kiwanis International dues if that once that is adopted at the convention or however that is settled, that would come into play. But I'm not aware of any other bylaw changes. And I'll give you a heads up and tell you that next year I'm actually chairing the Kiwanis International Committee on bylaw changes. So if you have any suggestions for bylaw changes or policy changes, feel free to let me know, and we'll add them to my list of things to look at next year. Because I've already had a few people go, okay, think about this. I'm like, okay, we will. But I'm not aware of any. If they do come up, we will make sure that that information will be provided to our district at our district convention, and then we'll get that out to the clubs. And if you've had a chance to do club bylaws in the past, you'll notice that it's a very simple section on the website that you can go in and just check the boxes. It's no longer something you have to print out and make all the changes and send in. It's all done electronically along the way. So youth protection guidelines, as I mentioned earlier, protecting the youth we serve is of utmost importance. It's very important for you as a secretary and actually for all of our members to familiarize ourselves with our youth protection guidelines and share them with our club members. Club members are expected to be educated and attend training on youth protection. We have a responsibility for the youth that we work with that member to make sure that anybody that works with a child, anybody that's engaged with them, um, is the right person for that. Background check information is available. Everyone, there is an option to get background checks, and anyone that works with the youth directly is expected to have one. Kiwanis International does help fund some of that at a cost that's very reasonable to the club to pay for that. In my club, for example, we actually pay for all the background checks for each of our members. That's how important we believe it is, and we ask all of our members to have a background check. And I know Jackie can go into full detail, and we'll set up one of those programs on a Thursday night Voices of Service program that I'll talk about a little bit later. But everything is on that webpage. Who to call, who should have a background check, how it's on file with Kiwanis International, and how you move, where you get help if you need any help along the way. Of course, reporting, one of your primary duties as a secretary is to handle reports. And we're going to just go over a couple of the reports that are out there for you. And some of these basically, like, here's your club meetings. You would prepare your, work with your club president to develop an agenda. I was in my club, the club president does the agenda. He gets it and he sends it all out. That just depends on your club. You may want to work with any of your committee chairs to make sure that information is out there. Again, in my club, the club president sends out all the information. That's something that he wants to take care of, and we let him do it. The club secretary is like, okay, go for it. But communicating program committee chair information, we have someone that sets up, our meeting setup, our greeters. So a lot of this stuff is different depending on what your club may do, but these are things that you may work with your club on, making sure that you have the greeters and someone there, taking attendance, taking minutes, and recording up the meeting just so you have that for your reports along the way. These are the core components of typically what a secretary may do, but again, every club is independent in that regard, and you may decide there's a way that you do that yourself that may be different. For the board meetings, again, the agenda, sending out the minutes from the previous meeting. You may work with correspondence and bills for your board. Some of that is handled, and I'll give you an example. In my club, the treasurer handles some of that stuff. He puts those reports together, and the invoices and the billing. So it depends on what your club has done, but know that there are ways for your club to make it work the best for you. Kiwanis International is not going to come in and say, well, this is what you should be doing, and this is what you should be doing, and this is what you should be doing. You need to make work for your club the way that works. And not every club is 35 or 40 or 60 members. So you may have different things that you have to do if you have a smaller club to make things work. And as I like to tell people, there are no Kiwanis police that are going to pop in your meeting and say that you're doing something wrong. That was always the big thing. Well, we're not, we don't have a pledge, or we're not doing this. That there's no Kiwanis police going to check that out. You need to do what works for you and your club and your community. So online reporting, we are currently in a transitional phase for online reporting, and our current system, which is called Kiwanis Connect, is going to be phased out, and we're hoping that the new secretary dashboard will be available on October 1 when your term begins. That information will be available on the club secretary website for you. And of course, I will tell you that here in Michigan, because of the background and the relationship we have with Kiwanis International, we will probably be one of the first districts that actually gets the training. A lot of times they use us in sorting through their training and figuring out what works for our members, so that when they go to roll that out big time, that they have the feedback from us. So we'll be switching to that program. It will be called Kiwanis Engage. And once the information is available, there will be virtual training for you. And You're going to get the email and the information as the club secretary, but we'll make sure that's available to you along the way. And if we get a call to do some initial training or do be the guinea pigs, we'll make sure that we get that out to you to help along the way. But the new program will allow you to do the same things. You can compile and pull reports. You can submit them, your rosters, your monthly reports, view and information on your service leadership programs. You be able to submit convention voting delegate information. You can pay and view club dues, background check information. And if anybody has worked with the program called Salesforce in your professional life, this is the program that the new program is based on. Salesforce is a very large customer relationship program, and that is what Kiwanis is transitioning to, so that we can kind of pull all of our stuff together along the way. Club information. This information as well is available on the dashboard. You have the opportunity to update your meeting location and the day and the time and signature project, your profiles, but all that information is available for you to do. And or if you have an assistant secretary, but all that information is available. And one thing we always hear is like, my address is wrong or my club information is wrong. That is something that you as the secretary have that access to, and we can always make sure that you get that assistance if you need it to make sure it's up to date. Monthly reports we've talked about several times, but all this information will be on the new Kiwanis Engage program. And for items that are public information, service project and fundraising data, but you'll also be able to look at the club meeting and attendance information, donation and giving data, basically, how a member could make a donation to Kiwanis International or the district. That information will be on there as well. And then as we develop continued partnerships across Kiwanis International, that information will be there for you. Permanent files. This is the recommendation on what your club should maintain for its permanent files. Many clubs actually have gotten into doing a lot of this electronically. Some clubs still have the boxes of information, but this is the type of stuff that you'll be looking at as a secretary. You're keeping your board meeting minutes, keeping your canceled checks, your newsletters, meeting minutes, your financial records. But these are things that would be passed along from secretary to secretary. If you're doing it for a couple of years, or you're doing it for several years, that would be the way to keep that information. And again, a lot of clubs actually have gone to electronic files for some of this stuff. But anything that relates to the club organization and the incorporation, basically official documents. So the online reporting system tracks many of these things. It's the Kiwanis Engage program will track many of it, but with the system being introduced over the last several years, some of that's not going to be historically in the system. But I asked the question about whether we would be able to enter that information as we move forward. Will club be able to do that? And I have not heard back yet from our team on that. So, but here's a great way to just some of the things you want to keep track of: recognition programs, significant donations. If your club receives a significant donation, whether it's from a member or whether it's from a grant project, that type of information, because it's always helpful to have to go back and look. And it's very important and helpful to have if your club is celebrating an anniversary, like 100 years or a 25-year or 50-year or even 15 years. Standard form of club bylaws. If you want to look at your bylaws, I would suggest that you look at your bylaws every year and make sure that they are up to date. You do want to make sure that they're there, but those bylaws can be submitted online. And your current bylaws that Kiwanis International has on file are on your login for you as a secretary. But if you want to update them, and we just recommend you look at them every year. It's a great thing to do, especially if you've changed from a vice president to a president-elect, or you have a secretary-treasurer versus a secretary. It's always great to have that information in your bylaws. Member information, you have an option to, or you have the ability as the secretary and access to member contact information. Assigning the leadership roles when your new officers are elected. You go in and say that Joan maybe is the new president. Let's make sure that information is up to date in our system so that Kiwanis International has that. Of course, adding new members, deleting members, and you can always download a complete roster of your club members in several different forms, whether it's a PDF form or an Excel file or a printable directory with pictures, without pictures. But that information is, of course, as good as the member that the information is collected and along, as you're going along, like, do you put the pictures of your members in there? It's always helpful to have that for the new members specifically, as they're joining your club and as they learn who the members of your club are. Finances, the Kiwanis dashboard also has the information and it's for the invoices that you have for open invoices for membership dues or for which you can pay by credit card. You can request invoice adjustments. All that information is available as well through the Kiwanis.org login for the finances. And, your treasurer has that access as well, but it's always a way for you, or the treasurer can get a report that says, here's how much money we owe Kiwanis International for our dues, or whether, we're paying for our service leadership programs. All that information is there and very user-friendly. And I know the new system will be just as usable for our members and move us away from paper. We still have some clubs that want to do things on paper. That's great. But a lot of the information that Kiwanis International asks for in their records helps us when we go meet with legislators and the government and providing information about how much service projects we are doing and how many members we have and the amount of money that we have raised as an organization. So a lot of that information is available through that website. Required forms, the monthly report that we do every month by the 10th of the month. I know that our secretary, for example, after every meeting updates the monthly report with what happened at that meeting so that he's not waiting until the end of the month to put all that information in. Updating your roster throughout the year. Clubs have until October 10th to delete any members for which they should not be billed annual dues for the following year. And I would highly recommend that you get into July, August, that you start looking at your rosters and determine which members, are going to, of course, we want all of them to return and maintain with us, but to stay their membership. But if you have someone that's no longer with you or has changed communities, you want to make sure that you don't want to pay for anybody that you don't have to. But there's a way to, all that is in information that's in there. And you have until October 10th to delete any members which you don't want to be billed for. Your IRS forms are due by February 15th for the 990 to maintain tax exempt status. And I will tell you, if there's anything you remember from this whole program, is to make sure that your 990 form is filled out and maintained. I know of clubs that have lost their tax exempt status because they didn't fill out their 990, and it's very difficult to get back. So I would make sure that is one thing that your club has done. Many times that's the treasurer manages that component of it, but that's always something you want to do to maintain your tax exempt status because you do not want to lose that. And of course, the report for the club elections and that information was due by June 1st, but you can continue to put that information in there. That will go, because in Michigan, the club elections reports and the information that's on our dashboard is what's used to print our district directory. And I know Linda Add wrote in there that are the new officer information for the 2024 by 25 seen by Michigan to update our directory. Yes, that is correct. So in the on the webpage, there's actually a line for 23, 24. You have to scroll down to get to the 24, 25 to put your officers in. But that is where we pull the data for the club presidents and the club secretaries to be in the district directory. And a lot of times I know the district is still digging by, September to get that information. So once you have elected your officers, or if they're going to stay on, you still need to update them. So whether it's someone that's going to serve a second year, please make sure that you turn that information in. The directories, we always like to say the directory is only as good as the information we have. And sometimes it's difficult for our leadership and our lieutenant governors to stay in contact with their clubs because we don't have that information. But it's very easy to do. It's all done through a drop down. Proposed amendments and bylaws for the resolutions. These are optional things that your club can do if you have a change that you'd like to make to the Kiwanis International bylaws. That's due by October 31st. And I know we get this like, wow, we just started October 1. How are we supposed to get it done by October 31st? Well, it's typically a process that takes several months by the time the board reviews it and the committees review it. And typically, I've not seen someone that's come up October 1 and said, yes, we want to do this, we're going to get it done. It's usually something that's been in process for several months and may have been duplicated and brought back the following year. Delegate certification forms, district forms for the delegates were due by April 30th, but I can tell you, you can still submit, I believe you can still submit those for those that are attending the international convention. Of course, the district office has their own district delegate forms that are submitted, but those, a lot of that forms as an organization are trying to be trying to get that electronically, so it doesn't, you're not carrying extra paper to convention. We used to carry a sheet of paper to the conventions with that information on it. So we're moving away and trying to get that information done. So we have a couple scenarios here. I just want you to think about them, but in the mail, you receive a package from Kiwanis International addressed to you as the club secretary. Inside, you find a workbook for creating your club's membership plan, a program booklet for the convention, a flyer, the new Kiwanis Children's Fund campaign, the Possibility Project. What would you do with this information? You might be surprised to know that sometimes that information never leaves the secretary's hands. It's on the kitchen table, it's in their desk, it's in their car. But as this club secretary, it's very important for you to provide that information to the club president, or if there's something specific to the membership chair or the children's fund chair, that information gets to that individual. The insurance information comes to the secretary. So our risk management policies come to the secretary. So for you as the club secretary, I used to throw mine in my brief or my backpack that was going to my Kiwanis meeting, so that I knew that following Monday when I went to my meeting that I was able to distribute all that information. Most of it is available. There is a site on the Kiwanis.org site that actually lists the information as being sent to the club, to the Kiwanis or to the secretaries. I'll have to find the link. I don't remember off the top of my head, but there is a site there that tells you this is what's being sent to your club secretaries. So, and it typically all the links are there in case you remember seeing it but don't remember where you put it. That information is available. Second scenario is you receive an email from your lieutenant governor or a phone call or a text, and they would like to schedule a visit with your club. They have been trying to get a hold of your club president with no success, which can happen. How would you handle this? So as the secretary, you want to, respond to your club, your lieutenant governor, because they are here to help you and they want to make sure that they know what's going on and make arrangements for them to visit your club. Make sure that they're, that they're there if they need a few minutes to talk. If you have an opportunity to introduce them and give them a few minutes to talk, you're welcome to do that. But you want to encourage your members to be there to support not only your lieutenant governor because of the support that they provide your club along the way. And it's, I will tell you, there's a working with membership. If I need something and I can't get a hold of the president, I automatically call the secretary and say, okay, what are we doing? What can you help me with membership, or I need this information? So those are the key. Your name and address and email is the key component that we need for the directory so that we can make sure we know how to get a hold of someone. So that's the Kiwanis International Education Program that we have been provided. There's my contact information. I'm always willing to help at any time, depending on what of course, my schedule. But if you decide to text me, if you would leave your name and Kiwanis Club. For those that don't know, I manage Sparty, the mascot for Michigan State University. So I get a lot of text messages and people from things that I just don't know whether to respond to. So if you give me your name and Kiwanis Club, that's helpful for me. Or if you just say, this is Linda Ann from Kiwanis, you'll get a priority phone call versus, hey, I want Sparty. Here's my phone number, call me. Okay. And then of course my email is there as well. I encourage you to send me emails. I work very different hours. So if you get an email response at 2:00 in the morning, please don't panic. And I don't expect you to answer my email, but my work schedule depends on where I'm traveling with Sparty and when I'm traveling for Kiwanis a lot of times. So this information is available to you. It's also available in the directory. And I do have a Facebook presence if you're looking for anything there. So the other thing